So we're here towards the end of the Maimer. And the last thing we did was on page 174, where he went back to connect what we're learning now to the beginning of the Maimer. In the beginning of the Maimer, he spoke about Cyrus, that at certain times, in a certain context, Cyrus is a positive thing. In a certain context, Cyrus is a negative thing. And when is it negative? If it's a situation where it's more concealment than necessary. And he gave a number of examples for this, with the Mishalim and with the Talmidei Chachamim, when they speak other kinds of conversations other than Torah. And he gave the example of them on the spiritual level, whether it's Cyrus of Malchus or Cyrus of a higher level. But the principle is the same principle. The principle is that when there's a concealment, and the concealment is necessary, however, it should be limited to a certain measurement. And if it goes beyond that, then it doesn't do any more good. On the contrary, it does damage. And one of the mashal that he gave, Begashmis, was when a person puts on a garment, and the garment is not according to his measurement, the garment is longer than the person. Then one might think, being that it's it's covering my body, so the little bit extra material can't do any harm. It's just more. And the truth of the matter is, no, that if there's more material than there should be, then it actually becomes a hindrance. Person could trip over it and get hurt. So the same thing is also beruchnius. How does it apply to the conversation in this Maimer, the second half of the Maimer, where he talks about the idea of why is it necessary to make a kelim derech hateva when it comes to parnasa? And the answer was in order to conceal Hashem's light. So that concealment also has to be in the proper measurement. And if it's more than it should be, then it does damage. So let's start with let's back up a little bit and start with the last words, or the last few lines on page 172. Right in the middle where it says, to what can this be compared? La'adam shetefer lebeged, person who has a garment tailored for himself. Yitzach letefer kamidas gufay, so he has to tailor it according to the measurement of his body. People go to a tailor and he measures the person, and based on those measurements, he creates this garment for them. Imu beis amis, if the person is beis amis, that's their height. And he makes a garment that's double the amount, less or a little more, or a little bit, or even double the amount. He's actually doing the opposite. It's interfering with the purpose. He's a mekalkal, page 175. He's a mekalkal, the gerim shekoshaba v'yipa legamri. This causes the person to stumble and to fall, and of course get hurt. So it does more damage. Without, and this will be sufficient for those who understand. Like there's more to elaborate on, but this makes it clear. Tiglachas Metzorah, Pirish, and the Torah talks about cutting the hair. The hair on the head comes from Chochmah, Nikra Meisre Meichen, and it's considered the excess of the intellectual energy. So Ba'adam Gadol K'vay Talmud Chacham Marei Ma'ulin. If it's a Chacham Gadol, if it's a Torah scholar, so we learned before that even whatever is excess, even if it's like overflow, it's still filled with wisdom. like we learned about Sichas Chumash Talmidei Chachamim, ordinary conversation of a Torah scholar. Ava b'shar b'nei Adam, in the Meisri Mechash Lehu is Chakmus HaYisera b'Mila D'Alma. Many years ago, the Rebbe used to come to the dorm for Pesach. Came to the dorm for Pesach. We would walk downstairs and give a bracha to all the students. And sometimes the Rebbe would walk through the whole building to all the rooms. So basically, the Rebbe was on every floor in the dorm. But the person who ran the dorm, around the Pesach Seder, was someone named Rabbi Feller. He's a shliach in Minnesota. And in fact, in those days, Minnesota had a learning program for the summer. And most of the women that ended up coming to the school, first they started off there, because that was like a smaller commitment. It was just for 1 month or 2 months. And then from there, they decided they want to move on to come here as well. So he already knew the women. And over here, in those days, there wasn't anybody that was really in charge. There was no principal. So he was the one that ran the Seder. When he ran the Seder, the Rebbe asked his child, he had a son. The Rebbe asked his son, do you know the Manishtana by heart? And he answered. But the next day, I think the first day of Pesach was also his birthday. The Rebbe asked that he should come into his Rebbe's room. Very unusual. And the Rebbe told him, when I said yesterday, do you know the Manishtana by heart? I didn't just say it like casually. And he explained what it meant with the question, do you know it by heart? In other words, the Rebbe made a statement which you would think anybody would say the same thing. Do you know Manishtana by heart? But by the Rebbe, by heart meant it was a whole subject about what does it mean to know by heart, with the heart, from the heart. And that's what it means, even the casual conversation of Talmidei Chachamim. Avo b'shar b'nei Adam, but by ordinary people, whatever is the overflow, means that which is concealed. So which means, in this context, it means unnecessary involvement in worldly things, in business. He makes garments that he needs for the business, but he makes it in a measurement that's more than what he needs. So therefore, on one hand, this is Cyrus, and the purpose of it is to conceal Hashem's light, so the chesed to be transformed from a spiritual chesed to a physical, tangible chesed. But on the other hand, when it's too much, then it does the opposite. This is something which is detrimental. You could actually blemish the chokhmah of the godly soul. There's a pasuk that says, the bread doesn't come to the wise, means people who attribute their success in business to their wisdom. That's not the people who get the bread. When it does say that chokhmah does bring light, so obviously it would mean it helps you have your sustenance. Yes, it's true. But it makes the garment in a way that is according to what is necessary. We don't have to go more than that. Page 177. But whatever is extra, the galech should be shaved off. The avirim, the garment should be removed completely. Kamaimer, like another source, Pasuk in Koheles, where it says, "Al tischakim harbe," don't be too smart. What does too smart mean? Meaning you use your seichel to do things, but don't go overboard and do it in a way that you're attributing everything to your seichel and your calculations and your understanding, but to realize that ultimately it's Hashem's bracha. So from this, a person could derive regarding all issues of worldly matters, not to invest too much of the intellectual energy and to do all sorts of scheming in business. People sometimes feel that if they go straight, they're not going to be able to make it. They have to do twisted things or things that are maybe not so kosher according to Torah. Kim is galgal besibas lahasik hatev anirle api hatev. He should do everything in a way that he could achieve what he needs to achieve according to Torah. Let him do what he needs to do according to the laws of nature. That he has a garment. And through this garment, Hashem will send him his parnasa. But it's Hashem that gives him the parnasa. And Hashem will choose what he should get, how much he should get. So if a person has the levush and somehow the money isn't coming, that is also mashgacha pratis. I did my part. I didn't go overboard with the levush. I made the right kind of levush, and then Hashem sends the bracha. And if a person sees chas v'shalom that he did the right levush and he still didn't get the bracha, that means right now this is not the right time for you to get that bracha. Yeah.
Does this also apply to shidduchim? With like not investing too much emotional and mental and spiritual energy into it?
Yeah, everything. There's only one question.
Everything that it doesn't apply to?
No, the big question is, by the way, you all have the sheet that Zissel has, or you don't have it?
Okay.
Wait a second, you have it? Yeah. So you have it on the sheet.
Not everyone has it.
No? Okay, let me just go over what it says here. We'll have to make a copy. So the big question is just to know what is too much. It would be nice if it would be very clear, spelled out. If it's more than X amount of time or X amount of money or X amount of energy, then it's too much. But everybody's different, everything is different, and there is no one size that fits all. So it really applies differently to every single person. But still, we have to get to some sort of a principle on the matter. How do you judge what's too much? Because either way is no good. If I do too much, I can't get the bracha. And if I don't do the right levush, I also can't get the bracha. Like you said, if I have a business that Al Piteva could only earn 100 ruble a month, and I need 500 ruble a month, I won't be able to get the bracha because I don't have a levush. But I do have a business. Yeah, but the business, Al Piteva, can't bring in more than 100 ruble a month. So you have to set something up that Al Piteva, which means if you ask a person who is the expert in sort of Teva, is not talking about Hashem, just talking about Teva, he will tell you, yes, this has the potential to bring in X amount of money a month. Let me go over that sheet of what it says there. Now, let me first finish the Maimer. He finished, right. And Hashem will do what he needs and so on. I want to give you an example also. There's a Sikh from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe gives the following example. The story of Purim. We know that there was a decree, and Esther said to Mordechai, tell the Yidden that they should fast for 3 days, and I'll also fast for 3 days, and they should pray for me that I should succeed when I approach the king. And why was it such a frightening thing? Because in those days, it says in the Megillah, no one could approach the king unless the king stretched out his, what is it called? Scepter to receive them. But if you come without being invited, so to speak, everyone knows that that person will lose his life. And Esther says, I haven't been called by the king already for 30 days. So she has everybody daven for her. So the Rebbe asked the question, was Esther doing things al pi teva or not al pi teva? Al pi teva, the reason why she found so much chesed chen in the eyes of the king, why the king liked her, was because of physical beauty that she had. That's what it says in the Megillah. And therefore, you would imagine that if anything, that would be the reason that he would respond to her in a positive way. What does she go and she does? She fasts for 3 days. Fasting for 3 days is not going to help her physical appearance, that it should be in a positive way, in an attractive way. So what she did was, in a way, not al pi teva. On the other hand, you have to fast because you have to ask Hashem for the bracha that you need. Anyway, what the Rebbe explains is that this is the Nakuda, that she was the one then who did the evaluation. She did in Derech HaTeva, not just did something in Derech HaTeva, she endangered her life in Derech HaTeva. She went to the king to request that he should intervene and he should cancel the decree that came from Haman. So that's Derech HaTeva. Otherwise, she would just sit in her room and daven, everyone would daven and just hope for a miracle. No, she did what you do up in Derech HaTeva. But at the same time, she realized that in order for her to succeed, she must have Hashem's bracha, because it's all going to be from Hashem's bracha. And therefore, in that case, the fasting was necessary. And this is the part which is the challenging part, because every person has to judge their own situation. Am I doing too much or too little? So I wanted to go over this sheet that we have. Let me just read what it says there. What does excessive mean when engaging in gashmis? Again, it's not just parnasa. People have to make a keli for parnasa. People have to make a keli so that to get married. If people get married in a chas v'shalom, there's the issue with children. They have to make a keli that they should be blessed with children. People have to make a keli so they should be able to, buy a house, have an apartment, buy clothing, whatever it is that you need. So in all these things, the rule is the same rule, not to engage excessively. So the question is, what is excessive? So I wrote down here 4 things. Number 1, investing too much time. Let's talk about parnasa because that's the easiest and most practical. It means too much time means that I don't need all that time. I'm not talking about if it's going to affect Yiddishkeit. Just the amount of time that I invest in the parnasa has to be the amount of time that's needed to have the parnasa. And if I invest more time than necessary, that means I'm making it too long of a keli. I hope you remember the reason that we gave. What's wrong if you invest more time in the keli? The gashmis, we know the code is too long, I'll trip. And the answer is because if I invest too much time in the keli, it's an indication that I'm relying on the keli more than Hashem. I'm forgetting that it's really on Hashem. So number 1 is too much time. Number 2, investing too much thought and emotion, which means that a person finds that there's something that have to do with parnasa, and they get very emotional about things. Whether it's anger when someone else does something, or looks at someone else as threatening my parnasa, or other kind of ways that people get involved emotionally, their highs and their lows are all about their parnasa and what's going on. That means that they're investing too much of themselves. And that's the pasuk. On this sheet, if you have it, there's a pasuk here. Then we'll talk about this often. The pasuk is a pasuk in Tehillim, and it's in chapter 128 in Tehillim. And it says, Yigia kapecha kiseicho ashrecha v'tegla, which means if a person eats from the hard work that they do with their own hands, then you're very fortunate and you deserve to be praised. The simple meaning is that a person should make an effort that they should earn their own money, not to want other people to support them and get money from other people. They should want to work themselves and earn their own money. However, like it says in some of you were in the class when we're learning the Rambam about tzedakah, the Rambam writes, if a person says, I'm a Talmid Chacham, I'm this and I'm that, I'm going to do my thing and let the community support me. Generally speaking, that's not the Torah way. Torah way is every person should do whatever they can to support themselves. The deeper meaning is Praiseworthy is the person that he works with his hands, meaning his hands, not his head and his heart. My head and my heart, I invest in ruchnius. And with my hands and my feet, that's where I work gashmias. So in other words, you have two people that are going to work. One person is racing through the davening in the morning, and they can't wait to get to work because they have some plans, they have some projects, they have some ideas. They're going to make a lot of money. They're supposed to meet a big customer today. So in a sense, they don't have the patience and the concentration in davening and learning because they're constantly thinking about the work. And then you have another person who's just the opposite. He goes to work, does whatever he has to do, but he can't wait for the moment that he can close the door and go back home and sit down and learn something and daven and so on and so forth. In other words, where's my heart and soul? Is my heart and soul in the business or is the heart and soul in ruchnius? Yeah.
I remember earlier we had learned that you shouldn't steal from your employer by like a number of ways. Would it be stealing from your employer to, if it's slow, like learn while it's slow? If everything is done and you want to like read that with Parsha or
No, if it doesn't interfere with the income of the business, then it's nothing wrong with it. If I'm learning and on account of that, I'm going to miss out on a customer or have no patience for a customer, that is not right. Yeah.
Here's what I'm trying to like, I understand with that, it says in garment how it connects, so like women covering their hair, or like the examples where trying to shave their hair to the Metzorah, but like, I thought he was also connecting it. Oh wait, it does talk about how like men don't shave their beards, does it, trim their beards?
You mentioned it also, yeah.
How does it connect there? Because then,
Because it says also that the man's beard comes from Yud Gimel to Kunei Dikna. In Halacha, in Gemara, it explains that actually the beard has 13 roots in the face where it comes from. And that's because the beard corresponds to the 13 attributes of mercy. The 13 attributes of mercy is also Ein Sof. That's part of Kesef. And if it's Ein Sof, then it needs the hair to conceal the light. And if a person cuts it off, then they can get that flow from 13 attributes of mercy.
right, so then like, is all hair from a piece of Isha, but then like different hairs, like a married woman's hair, and then beard hair, like,
Everything is from a different place, right?
okay.
That's the point.
So then what was from a piece of Isha?
Nazir, what's that Tivah? The Nazir's hair every Nazir during the 30 days, it's from the Tivah. And that's why you're not supposed to. The man's beard is from a Tivah. The pay is from a Tivah. And that's why it's not supposed to be cut off.
We keep it, because we want the light, but then like
Right.
the hair that we cover, shave, that's because if we sense it would be too much.
The hair that we talk about a woman's hair being
Yeah,
covered,
we cover,
right? Over there, it doesn't have to be cut off, it has to be covered,
yeah,
which means that because it's connected to Malchus, and the Malchus, that level, the light is already concealed, so the hair is an excessive concealment. Excessive concealment needs caution. The caution is, up there's caution, but by us covering the hair down here, that puts a cover up there that it's not. What does it mean that it's a cover? In other words, it's not accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So it means it's also only accessible to Kedusha, not accessible to Klippa. Again, when you talk these things in Gashmias, you say that a woman's being tznius shouldn't attract another man. But if you think of it, if you translate those words in the language of the Ruchnius, it means we don't want Klippa to get any, to nurture anything from this. And that's why it has to be covered. The cover is the protection. And of course, when it disturbs other spiritual and personal responsibilities, which means if a person is so invested in their business to the point that they have no time to educate their children, to spend time with their children, or spend time with their spouse, And as a result of that, it causes shalom bayis problems, or causes the children to have resentment, or even just causes the children not to get the kind of guidance and education they're supposed to get. That's also too much. Again, if a person has the kind of parnasa that it's impossible, he must work like this, must work these hours, and there's no choice. But what could mean too much in a situation where he could really work less time? If he work less time, he can come home, do the homework with his children, spend time with them, help put them to sleep, things like that. And then, because he's so busy with his parnasa, he's not able to do that. So that's investing too much.
Number three mentions other spiritual and personal, but the number four is about Yiddishkeit. So
Right.
what spiritual aspects are separate from Yiddishkeit?
Right. So maybe the word spiritual, maybe that was written by a human being, by me. So it could be there was excessive writing. I didn't have to add the word spiritual, right?
Okay.
Other personal responsibilities. No, because maybe I think what I meant was this, the last thing is when you're actually compromising in Yiddishkeit. Compromising would mean, in a very extreme case, would mean a person says, I have to keep my store open on Shabbos because otherwise I won't be able to make it. Then there are people who compromise in a different way. They're not going to work on Shabbos, but they'll work until the last minute before Shabbos. Or that they're going to, because of the business, they have to meet with a customer, and that customer wants to meet in an unkosher restaurant. So they're going to go there and maybe find some sort of leniency to drink this or to eat this, just to make the other customer. I don't want to lose my client, so I'm doing all these things. Or a man and a woman that are doing business, and she wants to shake his hand, and he thinks, oh, I don't want to lose my client. So, look, compromising in the tznius, or compromising in honesty, not being honest in business because I want to make more money. That's called compromising in Yiddishkeit. That means I'm making a garment more, because there's no way in the world that Hashem would say, I'm going to give you parnasa if you do things against my will. No, that's not the way it works. It's just the opposite. So therefore, if I do things like that, again, that's making the garment more important than what's in the garment.
Like a lot of shops on Kingston and other places in Crown Heights are kind of compromising on this. Like, like the Rebbe says, like, follow the rules of the land. So does the Torah.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of business owners kind of pick and choose.
Well, first of all, let me reveal the big secret to you. It's not Johnny Crown Heights. It's about the whole globe. Second of all, because they don't learn this mimer often enough. Persons in business should learn a mimer like this once in 30 days. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. And if they would learn it, and they would learn it sincerely, they probably would be in a much better place. You lose yourself. When you get involved in something, you lose yourself. So maybe not once in 30 days, once in 60 days, but if a person learns this mimer again and again and again, it's in front of your eyes. Remember, this is just a garment. Don't get lost. So imagine, like they tell the story about a chassid, that there was another chassid in his town that opened a business, which was competition with his. Competition is competition. And after a while, the other chassid started to lose business. And he needed a loan, needed money to be able to give his business a boost, right? So the chassid, who was his competition, gave him a loan that he should be able to boost up his business. Why? Because he said, whatever I'm supposed to get, I'm going to get. No one's going to take that away from me. Whatever he's supposed to get, he's supposed to get. So he wasn't worried. But other people would say, you're kidding? I'll give him the loan. He's my competition. He's making me lose business. Nobody can make me lose. If it's from Hashem, I'll get what I need to get. That's the approach. So sometimes people, when they think someone's taking something away from them, they're going to lose something, and they get all emotional about it, and they get angry, or sometimes worse than angry, they do something negative. All this means that I'm investing too much in the garment. I'm forgetting that it's not the garment, it's all Hashem. When you mention before shidduchim, it would be the same thing. In other words, if something doesn't work out, something doesn't work out. If we look at the levush, everything the levush, you start blaming myself. I shouldn't have said this. I should have said that. If I would have said this word a little bit different, I'm sure it would have been worked out. That's because we're forgetting. No, the Abish is setting this up. The Abish is making this. And if it's supposed to, if these two people are really meant to be together, they would have said the right thing, and they would have gotten together. And the fact that when a person starts getting all upset and saying, because you said this, because you said that, that means you're again attributing everything to the Levushim. So we have to focus on recognizing that the bracha for shidduchim comes from Hashem, and the bracha for parnasa comes from Hashem, and the bracha for children comes from Hashem. We do what we need to do, but we try not to allow ourselves to get caught up if the garment is not 100%. And definitely not go back to the past because everything's Gashgacha Pratis. So basically, a person who lives like this really has a very good blood pressure, a much more peaceful life, because you don't take everything to heart like that. In Mitzvah, today is a special day. Besides the fact that it's Rosh Chodesh Kislev, in general, Rosh Chodesh is the yontif of the Rebbe, which in the afternoon I'll go over the whole story. What happened Rosh Chodesh Kislev, why it's a yontif, and then we have a special speaker, as you know. But during Kislev, the song that everyone sings is a song called Pada B'Shalom Nafshi. Pada B'Shalom Nafshi is the niggin that's connected to the Alter Rebbe's release from jail, and the Mitzvah Rebbe is released from jail. So in that niggin, it's a chapter 55. In that niggin, towards the end of the song, there's the words V'hu Yichal Kalecha. V'hu Yichal Kalecha means that Hashem will provide for you. So the Chassidus, it says, if you look at the way the word Yichal Kalecha is spelled, it has in it the letters Chaf, Lamed, Yud, which means Keli. In other words, in essence, not only does Hashem give me the bracha, but He also gives me the keli. In other words, I'm making a keli. I'm going to work. That's also from Hashem. Who gives me the power to go to work? Who gives me the ability, the health that I can go to work? Who gave me the bracha that I should meet this and this person and find out about this job and go on an interview and I should get the job? All this is also arranged by Hashem. So even the keli is from Hashem. Yichal Kalecha. Let's see which pasuk it is. Pasuk Chav Gimel. Hashlech al Hashem Yoavcha, throw your package on Hashem, which means throw your burden on Hashem. Let Him worry about it. Yeah, by the time He should worry about it, not you. And He'll provide for you. But in the Chassidus it says that He'll be the one to give you the keli, not just. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do my part. But when I do my part, I should know it's Him that gave me the ability to even do the keli. Yeah.
Wait, so I was talking about the Marmar with Rivka, and we were saying that like both from the chef, it can be hard to remind ourselves, because sometimes like we see it that like different jobs are more successful with money than other ones, but like now we're saying that's like, I'm just confirming, like that's still from a chef, like we make like, reminder was saying like you make a calculation how much you want, and you gave an example like if you need 500, or he gave an example, if you need 500 rubles, you
Right.
do a job,
Right.
get to 100, so it's not a contradiction. Like you think, like we were saying, like it's hard because like think all from Shem, but like a doctor or a businessman makes more than like
The person doesn't have a job in that, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that's true, but that's exactly what the word derech hateva means. Something exists, a system exists, and that system exists in such a way that it doesn't recognize in the system. You can't see that it has anything to do with any higher force. It's just if you have this job, you make so much money. But on the other hand, just to add another thing, it was just there's a story, and there's probably more examples of this, of someone who was being asked by his friend, maybe you should start closing your business on Shabbos. And the person said, I can't. I'm telling you, it's my best day of the week. I make more money on Shabbos than I make on the whole week. I just can't. Anyway, they meet years later. How are you? How are you doing? I'm fine. And he says to him, unfortunately, his wife is sick. And he says, by the way, it's a miracle I didn't listen to you. Had I not been working on Shabbos, I would never have the money I have now to be able to all the medical bills and take care of everything I need to take care of. So what's his answer? His answer is that it could be that if you would have not worked on Shabbos, you wouldn't need the medical bills in the first place. In other words, what's considered a bracha in business? Normally, you would say the bracha is that I make a lot of money. No, there's another part of the bracha. I have money, and that the money goes for good, healthy, pleasant, desirable things. There's a famous word from the Frierdiker Rebbe that when we daven for rain, maybe you might remember from Tishrei, there's a part at the end of the whole prayer where we say the bracha v'lo l'klal. It should be for a bracha and not for a curse. What does that mean? Often you hear on the radio there was a big rain or torrential rains in this place, and houses caved in, and fields were destroyed, which means it was raining, but it was such a flooding rain that it destroyed. So rain is a bracha, but also the right measurement. So when we're asking Hashem for a bracha, that in Parnasa, the bracha is number one, that I have a job and I have money, and that the money goes for good things. So I guess if a person does his Parnasa honestly and everything else, then that also has an effect on the bracha. Now, you might not notice it because a lot of money is coming in, but where's the money going? Let me see if I remember. There was two partners that wanted to do a business and came to Tzemach Tzedek. And Tzemach Tzedek gave them a bracha to do business together. Then he told them to write a business contract. This is what it looked like. Business contract. Aleph Beis Gimel Daled. They were, what's Aleph Beis Gimel Daled? What kind of contract is that? So Aleph stands for emes. If you're going to deal honestly, bracha, then you'll have bracha. Gimel means gneva, stealing. Then Dalus means poverty. That looked aniyut, poverty, be poor. So basically, number one, that's the bracha, to have the money and not to have the money. And number two is where the money is going to.
What's the base in that?
Bracha. Okay. Tomorrow, we're going to start a new mimer. We usually do this mimer every year, briefly, but this year, once in 2 years, we learn it in detail and in depth. Is the mimer Basiligani of the Frierdiker Rebbe. We shall start tomorrow.